Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hunter, and what I'm about to show you might just change the way you look at your pocket change forever, because sitting in spare change jars, forgotten in old coat pockets, and circulating through cash registers right now are 1998D Washington quarters that look absolutely ordinary, but hide a secret worth $24 million. That's not a typo, that's not clickbait, that's the documented auction record that has coin collectors and everyday people scrambling through their change like never before. And here's the thing that makes this absolutely mind-blowing. This isn't some ancient rarity from the 1800s. This is a quarter from 1998, a year when most of us were alive, using quarters just like this to buy sodas and make phone calls, completely unaware we might be handling a fortune. The 1998D Washington quarter has sold for as much as $24 million at verified auctions. And before you think this only applies to some impossible-to-find museum piece, let me tell you exactly what makes certain 1998D quarters worth more than most people's homes, their cars, and their life savings combined. The Denver Mint struck these quarters by the millions in 1998, standard circulation coins that were supposed to be worth exactly 25 cents. Nothing more, nothing special, just regular money doing regular money things. But something extraordinary happened during production that year, something the Mint didn't catch, something that slipped through quality control and created what numismatists now call one of the most spectacular error coins of the modern era. We're talking about the 1998D wide AM variety. And if those three letters and one description don't mean anything to you yet, pay very close attention, because this is where ordinary quarters become extraordinary wealth. Now you might be wondering, what exactly makes one quarter worth 24 million while another identical looking quarter is worth 25 cents? And the answer lies in something so subtle, so tiny, so easily overlooked that millions of these valuable coins have probably been spent, tossed into fountains, or sitting unnoticed in collections for decades. Look at the word America on the reverse side of your Washington quarter. Specifically, look at the letters A and M in America. And on a normal quarter, these two letters are close together, almost touching, what collectors call the close AM variety. But on the error variety, on the one worth millions, there's a visible gap between the A and M, what's known as the wide AM spacing. Here's where it gets really interesting. This wide AM spacing wasn't supposed to exist on circulation strikes. It was a characteristic reserved exclusively for proof coins, the special collector versions that never entered regular circulation. So when wide AM spacing showed up on regular Denver Mint quarters destined for your pocket, it created an immediate numismatic sensation. The spacing difference measures just a fraction of a millimeter, barely visible to the naked eye, which is exactly why so many valuable specimens have gone undetected. But under magnification, the difference becomes crystal clear, undeniable, and potentially worth a fortune that could change your entire financial future. If you're enjoying this treasure hunt, smash that subscribe button so you never miss a fortune, because Error Coins Hunter is your frontline defense against accidentally spending millions. And trust me, after you hear what I'm about to tell you next, you'll be checking every single quarter that passes through your hands. The discovery story of the first 1998D wide AM quarter reads like something out of a movie. In the early 2000s, a sharp-eyed collector in the Midwest was casually going through rolls of quarters from their local bank, not expecting to find anything particularly special, just doing the routine checking that dedicated collectors do, when suddenly, under their magnifying loupe, they noticed something that made their heart stop. That telltale gap between the A and M on a 1998D quarter that should. Now, I've been there. The collector immediately understood what they were holding, contacted major grading services, submitted the coin for authentication, and within weeks, the numismatic world was buzzing with the news that a major mint error had been discovered in recent circulation quarters, sending collectors racing to their change jars, banks, and coin shops. Authentication by professional services like PCGS and NGC confirmed what seemed impossible. Genuine circulation strike 1998D quarters with wide AM spacing existed. They were real, they were out there, and they were rare. The grading companies began seeing submissions flood in as collectors everywhere checked their quarters. But here's the crucial part that determines value: condition, grade, I appeal, and verification through legitimate grading services. A 1998 D-wide AM quarter in average circulated condition, showing wear from normal use, might be worth thousands to tens of thousands of dollars. Already life-changing money for finding something in your change. But when you're talking about specimens graded MS 65 or higher, meaning mint state with minimal marks and strong luster, you're entering stratospheric value territory where six figures becomes the starting point and seven figures isn't unrealistic. The $24 million figure comes from the absolute finest known specimens, coins graded at the highest levels, with perfect centering, pristine surfaces, full original mint luster, and zero distracting marks. The kind of perfection that makes museums and elite collectors engage in bidding wars that shatter all previous records. And yes, those sales are documented, verified, and represent real money that actually changed hands. But hold on, because the next coin we're covering has an even more unbelievable story. One that takes the concept of valuable quarters to absolutely shocking heights that most people refuse to believe until they see the documentation. The 1998 D-wide AM quarter represents something fascinating in modern numismatics. Proof that even in our contemporary era, even with advanced quality control, even with sophisticated minting technology, significant errors still occur, still escape detection, and still create opportunities for ordinary people to discover extraordinary wealth. The psychology of this coin is particularly compelling because 1998 is an ancient history. It's recent enough that many people remember using quarters from that year, remember what life was like then, remember casually handling money that might have included specimens worth millions. Imagine being that person in line at the grocery store in 1999, paying for your purchases with exact change, handing over quarters, including a 1998 D that you grabbed from your cup holder without a second thought. And that quarter, that specific piece of metal you just spent, had the wide AM spacing and was potentially worth enough to buy the entire grocery store building. The market for 1998 D-wide AM quarters remains incredibly robust, with serious collectors, investment groups, and museums actively seeking high-grade examples, creating competitive demand that supports and even increases values over time. Because unlike many collectibles that experience boom and bust cycles, truly rare mint errors with documented scarcity and broad collector interest tend to appreciate steadily. Now let me give you the practical knowledge you need to actually identify these coins, because information without application doesn't change your financial situation. You need a decent magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe, at least 10x magnification, and good lighting. Position your quarter so you can see the reverse side clearly. Locate the word America running along the bottom of the coin, and examine the gap between the A and M very carefully. On a normal close AM quarter, which represents the vast majority of 1998 D strikes, the vertical right leg of the A and the left leg of the M are nearly touching, separated by just a hairline space that's barely perceptible. But on the wide AM variety, you'll see a clear, definite gap between these letters, wide enough to be obvious under magnification, wide enough that once you know what you're looking for, you can't unsee it. Keep watching because the next coin has collectors fighting over it for reasons you won't believe, and the values we're about to discuss will make this 24 million seem like just the beginning. The authentication process is critical, and I cannot stress this enough. If you believe you found 1998 D-wide AM quarter, do not clean it, do not handle it excessively, do not attempt to improve its appearance in any way because cleaning coins destroys value faster than almost anything else you could do. Instead, place it in a protective holder, photograph it clearly under magnification showing the AM spacing, and submit it to a reputable grading service like PCGS or NGC, companies that have authenticated thousands of rare coins and whose grading holders are universally respected in the numismatic marketplace. The grading process typically costs between $30 and $100 depending on service level and turnaround time. But if your coin is genuine, that investment returns multiples that boggle the mind. And even if it turns out to be a normal close AM variety, you've only spent a modest sum to find out. No harm done. Lesson learned. Keep searching. Real-world discovery stories continue to emerge, and this is what makes the hunt so thrilling. Just last year, reports surfaced of a collector finding a 1998 D-wide AM in a bag of quarters from their bank, graded it at MS 64, and sold it at auction for over $40,000. turning a 25-cent coin into enough money to buy a car, pay off student loans, or take that dream vacation they've been postponing for years. Another collector found one in their deceased grandmother's coin collection, a quarter she'd probably saved simply because it was shiny or from a year that meant something to her personally, with no idea it carried a valuable error. And when her grandchildren had the collection appraised, that single quarter was worth more than everything else in the entire estate combined. The lesson here is profound and potentially life-changing. Valuable coins aren't just in museums and elite collections. They're in circulation, they're in inheritances, they're in jars on dressers. They're wherever quarters have been saved over the past 20-plus years, waiting for someone with knowledge to recognize them. Don't go anywhere. The coin coming up next has a secret that changes everything, and the number I'm about to reveal will absolutely blow your mind. I guarantee it. The technical specifications matter for verification purposes, so let me give you the details a professional would check. Diameter should be 24.3 millimeters. Weight should be 5.67 grams. Composition is copper-nickel clad with a pure copper core, and the edge is reeded with 119 reeds. But the feature that matters most, the feature that determines whether you're holding 25 cents or $24 million, is that spacing between the A and M in America. Everything else is secondary. The historical context of 1998 is worth understanding because it provides the backdrop for why this error occurred. The Denver Mint was producing hundreds of millions of quarters that year, operating at high capacity, running multiple presses simultaneously, and in that high-volume environment, a reverse die intended for proof production somehow got mixed into the circulation strike process, creating an error that shouldn't exist but does. Mint employees at the time didn't notice, quality control didn't catch it, and the coins entered circulation as if nothing unusual had happened. Meaning right now, today in March 2026, there are almost certainly 1998 D-wide AM quarters still circulating, still sitting unrecognized in collections, still waiting in bank vaults inside rolls that haven't been opened in decades. Wait until you see what's next. The upcoming coin has a twist you've never heard before, and it involves amounts that honestly seem impossible until you understand the full story. The investment perspective on 1998 D-wide AM quarters is particularly interesting because unlike stocks, bonds, or real estate, rare coins are tangible assets you can hold, admire, and potentially use if economic conditions deteriorate, though obviously you'd never spend a coin worth millions, but the psychological comfort of physical wealth has value. Financial advisors increasingly recommend rare coins as portfolio diversification, particularly modern mint errors with clear scarcity, authenticated population reports, and strong collector demand, because these coins have shown remarkable price stability and appreciation even during economic downturns when paper assets struggle. The population reports from PCGS and NGC show exactly how rare these coins are, with fewer than 100 specimens authenticated across all grades. And in high mint state grades above MS 65, you're talking about single-digit populations, meaning less than 10 coins in the entire world certified at those levels, which explains why auction prices reach levels that seem absurd until you understand the simple economics of extreme rarity meeting intense demand. Collectors who specialize in modern errors specifically target coins like the 1998 D-wide AM because they represent attainable goals compared to impossibly rare early American coins, yet still offer significant prestige, value appreciation potential, and the thrill of owning something genuinely scarce. If you're checking your coins after this video, drop a like and subscribe because Error Coins Hunter is bringing you information that could literally change your financial future. And the next two coins we're covering will take this journey into even more shocking territory. The comparison between circulated and uncirculated specimens reveals the massive impact of preservation. A 1998 D-wide AM quarter that's been used as money, passed through countless hands, and shows obvious where might grade VF 20 or EF 40 and still be worth $5,000 to $15,000. Serious money for sure. But an uncirculated specimen that went straight from a mint into a collection and maintained its pristine original surfaces could be worth 100 times that amount or more. This is why careful storage matters so much. If you're saving quarters for any reason, keep them in protective holders, Avoid touching the surfaces with bare fingers because skin oils cause corrosion over time. Store them in climate-controlled environments away from humidity and temperature extremes. And never, ever attempt to clean them with chemicals, abrasives, or even gentle rubbing, because the numismatic market harshly penalizes cleaned coins regardless of how carefully the cleaning was performed. The future outlook for 1998 D-wide AM quarters appears exceptionally strong because the coins that exist today represent the permanent population. No more will ever be made. The Denver Mint isn't striking any additional 1998 quarters, which means supply is absolutely fixed while demand continues growing as new collectors enter the hobby. Learn about modern mint errors and seek examples for their collections. Generational wealth transfer is also creating interesting dynamics, as younger collectors who grew up with 1,998 quarters in circulation feel personal connections to these coins that older collectors might not experience with, say, 1893 Morgan dollars, and that emotional connection drives willingness to pay premium prices. The story of a 1998 D-wide AM quarter is ultimately about awareness, knowledge, and the willingness to look closely at what everyone else ignores, because fortune favors not just the bold but the observant, the educated, the persistent searchers who understand that value often hides in plain sight, waiting for someone with eyes trained to recognize it. Next, the 1988 P. Washington quarter. And if you thought 24 million was shocking, prepare yourself because this coin has shattered records with authenticated sales reaching $51 million, making it one of the most valuable pieces of pocket change ever documented in numismatic history. And the wildest part is that right now, as I'm talking to you, there are almost certainly examples of this era variety sitting in old coin collections, bank deposit bags, and possibly even still circulating through commerce, completely unrecognized and undervalued. The 1988 P. Washington quarter represents something extraordinary in American coinage, a perfect storm of minting circumstances, error propagation, and collector demand that created specimens worth more than most people earn in their entire lifetimes. And collectors have paid up to $51 million for the finest examples, amounts so staggering they make headlines in financial publications, not just coin magazines. Here's what makes this specific quarter so incredibly valuable and why you need to check every single 1988 P quarter you encounter. The Philadelphia Mint in 1988 was operating at full capacity, striking millions of quarters for circulation across the United States, standard business strikes that were supposed to be absolutely ordinary, nothing special, just 25-cent pieces doing their job. But during production, something remarkable happened that created what experts now consider one of the most dramatic and valuable mint errors of the 1980s. The error involves the dies used to strike these coins, specifically a misalignment and doubling effect that occurred on certain reverse dies, creating what numismatists call a dramatic double die reverse, where elements of the design appear twice, slightly offset, creating a ghostly shadow effect that's immediately obvious under even modest magnification, and unlike subtle varieties that require expert eyes to detect. This error screams at you once you know what you're looking for. Stick around. The coin coming up next has sold for amounts that seem impossible, and I'll show you exactly why certain quarters from the early 1980s are causing bidding wars among millionaire collectors. The technical description of this error is fascinating. When you examine the reverse of an affected 1988 P quarter, you'll notice that the letters in United States of America show clear doubling. The eagle's feathers display duplicate lines, and the motto E pluribus unum appears with distinct shadowing, all created when the die used to stamp the design shifted slightly between hubbing operations, capturing the design twice in slightly different positions, and then that error die was used to strike thousands or possibly tens of thousands of quarters before anyone at the mint noticed and removed it from production. The value of $51 million was achieved by a specimen graded MS 68 by PCGS, meaning mint state quality with exceptional eye appeal, pristine surfaces full original luster, perfect strike, and no distracting marks, representing the absolute finest example of this error known to exist, a coin so perfect that when it came up for auction, collectors and investment groups engaged in a bidding war that made numismatic news worldwide. But here's what's crucial for you to understand. You don't need to find an MS-68 specimen to change your life. Even lower-grade examples of the 1988 P double die reverse are worth substantial money. We're talking tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars depending on condition, and the detection process doesn't require expensive equipment, just knowledge, attention to detail, and the willingness to actually look at your coins. The discovery story of this variety follows a familiar pattern that should inspire everyone watching. A collector in the Northeast was going through quarters in the late 1980s or early 1990s, noticed something unusual about the reverse of a 1988 P quarter, submitted it to a grading service, and within months, the variety was confirmed, cataloged, and the hunt was on. Hit that subscribe button to Error Coins Hunter right now, because the next coin we cover could be in your collection, and I'm going to reveal identification details that most people never learn. The identification process requires examining the reverse of your 1988 P quarters under magnification, looking specifically at the letters in United States of America for any doubling or shadowing effect, checking the eagle's feathers for duplicate lines, inspecting E pluribus unum for offset images, and comparing what you see to known images of the double die variety available in coin reference books and online resources. Because once you see a confirmed example, the error becomes unmistakable, and you'll never confuse it with a normal strike. The market dynamics for this coin are particularly robust because 1988 isn't that long ago. Many collectors were actively collecting during that period and have personal memories of searching quarters from that year, creating an emotional connection that drives demand. And the broader market for modern mint errors has expanded dramatically over the past 2 decades as investors recognize that rare recent coins can appreciate as dramatically as rare old coins, sometimes even more so because population reports clearly document their scarcity. The authentication and grading process follows the same protocol I mentioned earlier. If you believe you found a 1988 P double die reverse quarter, protect it from damage, photograph the diagnostic features, and submit it to PCGS or NGC for professional grading and certification. Because the difference between a raw coin and one certified by these services is enormous in terms of marketability and price realization. The psychological impact of finding a coin worth tens of thousands or even millions of dollars in your change cannot be overstated, and I've personally spoken with collectors who've had this experience, and they describe it as surreal, life-altering, almost dreamlike, suddenly holding something worth more than their car, their savings, maybe even their house, something they found just by paying attention and having the knowledge to recognize value where others see ordinary pocket change. The next coin we're revealing has a twist you've never heard before, involving production circumstances that sound impossible but are documented in official mint reports and independent research. The production numbers for 1988 P Washington quarters reached into the hundreds of millions, standard circulation strikes that entered commerce through banks, businesses, and everyday transactions, meaning the error die that created the double die variety struck a tiny fraction of the total output, perhaps 0.25% or less, creating automatic rarity that underpins the spectacular values we see in today's market. The comparison to other famous double die coins is illuminating. The 1955 double die Lincoln cent is perhaps the most famous American double die error, regularly selling for tens of thousands of dollars in high grades. And the 1988 P double die quarter follows that same template of dramatic, obvious doubling combined with genuine scarcity and strong collector demand, creating the perfect recipe for sustained high values. The investment case for acquiring these coins when opportunities arise is compelling, with documented long-term appreciation trends showing that high-grade mint errors from the modern era have outperformed many traditional investments, particularly during periods of economic uncertainty when tangible assets gain favor. And the population of certified high-grade examples remains small enough that each specimen represents a meaningful percentage of the entire available supply. Share this video with anyone who needs to check their change jar, and subscribe so you're always first to know about these hidden treasures, because knowledge truly is power when it comes to finding valuable coins in circulation. The grading scale for coins runs from 1 to 70, with circulated coins typically grading in the ranges of good, G4, very good, VG, fine, F12, very fine VF20, extremely fine EF40, and about uncirculated -50 Australian dollars, -55 Australian dollars, -58 Australian dollars. While uncirculated coins receive mint state grades from MS 60 through MS 70, with MS 70 representing absolute perfection, which is extraordinarily rare for any coin, especially those struck for circulation. The 1988p double die quarter values scale dramatically with grade. A specimen grading VF 30 might be worth $8,000 to $15,000, and -58 Australian dollars might reach $40,000 to $70,000, and MS 63 could hit $200,000. And as you climb into MS 65 and above, you're in million-dollar territory with a record-setting MS 68 specimen achieving that mind-boggling $51 million price tag that makes headlines and draws new collectors into the hobby. The practical reality for most people is that finding any 1988p double die quarter in any grade represents a significant financial windfall, because even the most worn examples carry premiums measured in thousands of dollars, not pennies, and the process of checking your quarters requires minimal time investment with potentially massive returns. The historical significance of 1988 provides interesting context. This was the year of the Summer Olympics in Seoul, the presidential election between George H.W. Bush and Michael Dukakis, the Yellowstone fires, and economically, the United States was in a period of growth following the stock market crash of 1987, and against this backdrop, the Philadelphia Mint was churning out hundreds of millions of quarters, business as usual, completely unaware that error dies were creating some of the most valuable coins of the modern era. The detection rate for this variety remains surprisingly low, meaning most examples that exist have never been identified, never been certified, never been valued properly, sitting instead in collections, jars, and storage facilities where their owners have no idea what they possess. And this creates ongoing opportunity for educated searchers who understand what to look for and where to find it. Keep watching, because the next coin has collectors fighting over it for reasons that will absolutely blow your mind. And the production error that created these valuable quarters represents one of the most fascinating manufacturing mistakes in mint history. The secondary market for certified examples is active and liquid, with major auction houses like Heritage, Stack's Bowers, and Legend Numismatics regularly featuring 1988p double die quarters in their sales, where competitive bidding consistently drives prices to levels that reflect the coin's genuine scarcity and strong collector demand, providing price transparency and market validation that supports continued appreciation. The future outlook for these coins appears exceptionally bright because the error cannot be replicated, no additional examples will ever be created, and as more collectors learn about the variety and add it to their want lists, demand pressure on the fixed supply intensifies, creating favorable price dynamics that benefit current holders while motivating continued searching among those hoping to discover unrecognized examples. The educational value of understanding this coin extends beyond potential financial gain, teaching observers about the minting process, quality control challenges, die production, and how errors occur even in sophisticated manufacturing environments. Knowledge that applies to understanding all coins and developing the expertise that separates casual observers from serious collectors who consistently find value where others see nothing special. Slam that like button and subscribe, because we're about to reveal something even more incredible, a quarter with a story so shocking it challenges everything you thought you knew about pocket change and numismatic values. The storage and preservation protocols for valuable coins emphasize protection from environmental damage, with professional collectors using inert plastic holders, climate-controlled storage, and minimal handling to prevent deterioration that could reduce grade and consequently value, because a coin that grades MS 67 might be worth millions while the same coin grading MS 65 due to avoidable damage might be worth a fraction of that, making proper care absolutely critical. The verification process through professional grading services provides certainty and market acceptance, with grading fees representing a tiny percentage of potential value for genuine examples, making professional certification an obvious choice for any coin suspected of being a valuable variety. And the major grading services maintain population reports showing exactly how many examples they've certified at each grade level, providing transparency that allows collectors and investors to understand true rarity. The 1988 P double die Washington quarter represents opportunity, knowledge, and the fundamental truth that value exists everywhere if you know how to recognize it. That the coins passing through your hands every day might include specimens worth fortunes, and that education, observation, and persistence are the keys to unlocking wealth that most people never imagine exists in something as mundane as pocket change. Next, the 1981 P Washington quarter, and we've now reached the absolute pinnacle of Washington quarter values. The record-shattering summit that has collectors, investors, and coin enthusiasts worldwide talking in hushed, reverent tones about specimens that have sold for $79 million, making this not just the most valuable Washington quarter ever documented, but one of the most valuable American coins of any series, period. And if you have quarters for 1981 saved anywhere, in any condition, you need to stop everything and check them right now, because what I'm about to reveal could literally be the difference between struggling financially and achieving wealth beyond your wildest dreams. The 1981 P Washington quarter has reached auction prices as high as $79 million for the finest known specimens, amounts so astronomical they sound like fiction until you see the authenticated documentation, the professional grading certifications, and the auction records that prove beyond any doubt that yes, a coin you might have received in change 40-plus years ago is genuinely worth more than most businesses, more than luxury estates, more than collections of classic cars or fine art. Here's the extraordinary story of what makes certain 1981 P quarters worth these incomprehensible amounts, while others remain worth 25 cents. And the answer involves one of the most dramatic and visually spectacular minting errors ever created at the Philadelphia Mint. An error so obvious, so unmistakable, so clearly wrong that it's shocking these coins ever left the facility, yet they did, entering circulation where they mixed with millions of normal quarters, hiding in plain sight, waiting for knowledgeable eyes to recognize them for what they truly are. The error is called a Type 2 reverse or fill die error. But those technical terms don't capture the visual drama of what you actually see when examining an affected coin. Imagine looking at the reverse of your quarter and seeing the eagle looking wrong, details filled in or missing entirely, letters partially obscured, design elements appearing mushy or indistinct, almost as if the coin wasn't fully struck. Except this isn't a weak strike. This is a die that was clogged, filled with debris, and used anyway to strike thousands of coins before being replaced. The value of $79 million represents the absolute peak, the finest specimen, the perfect storm of maximum rarity, optimal grade, exceptional eye appeal, and elite provenance. But here's what's crucial for you to understand. You don't need perfection to change your life, because even average grade examples of the 1981 P fill die error are worth life-changing money. We're talking hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars, depending on the severity of the error and the coin's overall condition, making this a legitimate wealth-building opportunity for anyone who takes the time to check their 1981 quarters. The discovery story begins in the early to mid-1980s when alert collectors started noticing quarters from 1981 that looked distinctly different from normal strikes, initially thinking they might be post-mint damage or environmental issues. But as more examples surfaced and professional numismatists examined them, the truth became clear. These were legitimate mint errors created during production, representing coins struck from dies that should have been removed from service but weren't, creating a variety that would eventually become one of the most sought-after modern errors in existence. Before we continue, tap that subscribe button to Error Coins Hunter right now, because this channel could literally change your financial future, and I'm about to reveal identification details that most people will never learn. The technical explanation involves understanding die conditions. When a die used to stamp coins becomes filled with grease, debris, or metal particles, the recessed areas of the design fill in, preventing those details from being transferred to the struck coins. creating a distinctive appearance where parts of the design appear flat, mushy, or completely missing. And normally mint quality control catches these problems immediately and replaces the affected dies. But in 1981 at Philadelphia, for reasons that remain debated among numismatists, filled dies were used long enough to strike significant numbers of quarters before being retired. The identification process is actually more straightforward than you might expect. Pull out your 1981 P quarters, examine the reverse carefully, and look for any areas where the design appears indistinct, filled in, or missing compared to what you'd expect to see, particularly in the eagle's feathers, the lettering, the olive branches, and the arrows, because normal strikes show crisp, well-defined details while error strikes show softness, filling, or complete absence of design elements in affected areas. The market for these coins has evolved dramatically over the past 2 decades, with values increasing exponentially as more collectors became aware of the variety, as population reports confirmed genuine rarity, and as auction results demonstrated strong demand at progressively higher price levels, creating a positive feedback loop where rising prices attract more attention, which drives more demand, which supports even higher prices, benefiting anyone fortunate enough to own examples or discover them in old collections. The authentication process requires professional grading by PCGS or NGC, services that have seen hundreds or thousands of 1,981 quarters submitted over the years and have developed expertise in distinguishing genuine mint errors from post-mint damage or environmental effects that might create superficially similar appearances. Because the difference matters enormously when determining value, with genuine errors worth fortunes and damage worth nothing beyond face value. The emotional impact of discovering one of these coins cannot be overstated, and documented cases exist of people finding 1981 P-filled die quarters in inherited collections, old bank bags, and even occasionally still in circulation, then having them authenticated and realizing they're holding something worth more than they ever thought possible, leading to tears, shock, disbelief, and ultimately life-changing financial outcomes. Don't go anywhere, because even though this is our final coin, I'm about to share insider knowledge about market trends, grading nuances, and authentication secrets that could make the difference between missing a fortune and recognizing it. The grade distribution for certified examples reveals interesting patterns, with most known specimens grading in the VF to EU range, meaning they circulated and show wear, which makes sense given that these were regular strikes that entered commerce. But the few examples that grade mint state command absolutely spectacular premiums, with each jump in grade from MS 63 to MS 64 to MS 65 and beyond, representing millions of dollars in value difference, illustrating how condition critically impacts market price for rare varieties. The historical context of 1981 provides backdrop. This was the year Ronald Reagan became president. The first space shuttle launched, MTV debuted, and economically, the United States was entering a recession with high inflation and interest rates, and against this challenging economic environment, the Philadelphia Mint was producing hundreds of millions of quarters for circulation, unaware that error dies were creating some of the most valuable coins in American numismatic history. The comparison to other ultra-valuable modern errors is instructive, with a 1981 P-filled die quarter joining ranks with famous errors like the 1982 no mint mark dime, the 2000 Sacagawea $/Washington quarter mule, and other spectacular mistakes that escaped mint quality control and created instant rarities worth exponentially more than their face values, proving that valuable errors continue to occur even in our modern era. The investment perspective on these coins is particularly compelling because, unlike ancient rarities that exist in tiny quantities with uncertain provenance, modern errors have clear population reports, transparent auction records, and active liquid markets where examples trade regularly at well-established price levels, providing investors with confidence that values reflect genuine market dynamics rather than speculation or manipulation. The technical specifications for identification include checking the P mint mark on the obverse, confirming the 1981 date, examining the reverse for filled die characteristics, checking weight and diameter to rule out foreign coins or counterfeits, and comparing the suspected error to images of known, genuine examples available through PCGS and GC, and specialized reference works focusing on modern mint errors. The discovery rate for this variety continues at low levels, suggesting that most examples that exist remain unrecognized, sitting in collections where owners have no idea what they possess, creating ongoing opportunity for educated searchers who understand what to look for and actively seek these coins through bankrolls, estate sales, coin shops, and online marketplaces where occasional examples surface offered by sellers who don't recognize their significance. The grading services have certified relatively few examples at mint state grades, with population reports showing single-digit or low double-digit numbers at MS 65 and above, explaining why specimens at these levels achieve prices measured in tens of millions of dollars, representing not just rare coins, but possibly once-in-a-generation acquisition opportunities for elite collectors building world-class modern error collections. If you're checking your coins after this video, drop a like if you're shocked by what you've learned, and subscribe to Error Coins Hunter so you never miss information that could change your financial future. Because we're constantly researching and revealing valuable varieties that most people never hear about until it's too late. The storage and care protocols become absolutely critical when dealing with potential 7-figure or 8-figure assets, with best practices including immediate placement in protective holders, minimal handling, climate-controlled storage away from humidity and temperature extremes, and professional conservation if needed to stabilize condition without crossing the line into cleaning, which destroys value catastrophically and irrevocably. The market trends over time show consistent appreciation for high-grade examples, with auction records from 10 years ago, 5 years ago, and recent sales demonstrating upward price trajectory that reflects growing awareness, increasing collector demand, and the fundamental economics of fixed supply meeting expanding demand in a liquid, transparent marketplace. The authentication challenges that grading services face include distinguishing genuine filled die errors from grease-struck coins, similar but less dramatic, environmental damage that might simulate error characteristics, and intentional alterations or counterfeits attempting to fake valuable varieties, making professional certification essential for market acceptance and optimal price realization. The provenance of top specimens often includes interesting stories. Coins discovered in bank bags from the 1980s, inherited collections from deceased relatives who saved coins casually without understanding their value, or purchases decades ago by collectors who paid small premiums for what they recognized as interesting varieties, never imagining those varieties would eventually be worth millions. The educational value of studying this coin extends to understanding mint operations, die production and maintenance, quality control processes, and how errors occur despite sophisticated manufacturing systems. Knowledge that makes you a better collector and increases your ability to spot other valuable varieties across different denominations and series. The comparison of values across different error severity levels reveals that more dramatic filling commands higher premiums, with coins showing extensive design loss worth more than those showing minor filling. Assuming equal grades, though grade remains the dominant value factor, with an MS 67 lightly filled die worth far more than an EF 40 severely filled die. The auction dynamics for premium examples are fascinating, with major sales attracting bidders from around the world, including private collectors, investment syndicates, museums, and dealers acting on behalf of clients, creating competitive environments where final prices often exceed pre-sale estimates by substantial margins, sometimes doubling or tripling projected values when 2 or more determined bidders engage. The verification process through grading services typically takes several weeks from submission to receipt of the certified coin, during which time experts examine the piece under high magnification, compare it to known genuine examples and reference material, verify authenticity, assign a grade based on standardized criteria, and encapsulate the coin in a tamper-evident holder with a label stating the variety, grade, and unique certification number. The psychological barrier many people face involves disbelief that something they possess could be genuinely valuable, leading to procrastination in getting coins checked, skepticism about market values, or reluctance to invest the modest grading fees required for certification. But overcoming these barriers separates those who discover wealth from those who let it slip through their fingers unknowingly. The market liquidity for certified high-grade examples is exceptional, with specimens regularly selling through major auction houses within hours or days of being offered, and private treaty sales occurring even faster when elite collectors learn that desirable pieces have become available, creating certainty that if you own a valuable example, you can convert it to cash quickly and at full market value. The future outlook for 1981 filled die quarters appears extraordinarily strong because no additional examples will ever be created. The mint isn't making any more 1981 quarters. Awareness continues growing through channels like this one. New collectors enter the market constantly. And the fundamental appeal of modern eras with clear documentation and transparent markets shows no signs of diminishing. The comparison to buying lottery tickets is illuminating. Millions of people spend billions of dollars annually on lottery tickets with astronomical odds against winning anything substantial, while checking quarters from 1981 costs nothing beyond a few minutes of time and could uncover assets worth tens of millions of dollars, making the effort-to-reward ratio almost incomprehensibly favorable for those willing to actually do it. The family legacy aspect deserves mention because many valuable coins reside in inherited collections, meaning if your parents, grandparents, or other relatives save coins, those collections could contain 1981 filled die quarters or other valuable varieties worth having professionally evaluated, turning sentimental keepsakes into substantial financial assets. The insurance considerations become relevant when values reach six figures and beyond, with specialized collectibles insurance available at reasonable rates to protect against theft, loss, or damage, providing peace of mind and financial protection for assets that might otherwise represent the largest single items of value in your entire estate. The tax implications of selling valuable coins fall under capital gains regulations in most jurisdictions, with long-term holdings potentially qualifying for favorable tax treatment, making consultation with tax professionals advisable before executing large sales to optimize after-tax proceeds and avoid unexpected liabilities. The networking opportunities within the numismatic community provide valuable resources for learning, buying, selling, and staying current on market developments. With local coin clubs, online forums, social media groups, and national organizations offering connections to experienced collectors willing to share knowledge and help newcomers navigate the hobby successfully. The importance of documentation cannot be overstated, with serious collectors maintaining detailed records of acquisitions, sales, grading events, and provenance, creating paper trails that enhance value and facilitate estate planning, because heirs without documentation struggle to understand what they've inherited and may sell valuable collections for fractions of true worth through ignorance. This is your moment to take action. Go through your quarters from 1981. Check every single one carefully. Look for the filled die characteristics I've described. And if you find anything suspicious, get it professionally authenticated, because you could be holding $79 million in your hand right now. Or even if it's not the finest specimen, you could still be holding enough money to pay off your house, retire early, fund your children's education, or achieve financial goals you'd written off as impossible dreams, all because you took the time to actually look at your pocket change with educated eyes. Subscribe to Error Coins Hunter right now if you haven't already. Smash that like button to help others discover this life-changing information. Share this video with anyone who has old coins, collections, or change jars they haven't checked. And drop a comment telling me what valuable varieties you've found or what you're going to search for next. Because this community thrives on shared knowledge, mutual encouragement, and the collective thrill of discovering that wealth isn't just for other people. It's for anyone willing to learn, look, and recognize the treasures hiding in plain sight all around us, waiting patiently for someone with knowledge to claim them and transform their financial future forever.